Yo, what's up, Broncos country? This is Eddie with Colorado Sports Connection, and I'm joined again tonight by Mohamed. So tonight we got a great show for you guys. We got a lot of topics to get through, training camp, a lot of things to get through. So the first thing we're going to touch on, Mohamed, I wanted to get in your opinion on this. Randy Gradishar finally gets enshrined into the Hall of Fame. What were your first thoughts about this?
I mean, honestly, Eddie, about freaking time. Seriously, he should have been in like a long time ago. But I'm glad he finally actually, got in. Every time you see a Broncos getting into the Hall of Fame, it's always a good occasion for Broncos country. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I was happy too. Like I know, for years, the NFL really doesn't seem like the Broncos at all. You know, snubbing all these players, and the biggest one for me is Mike Shanahan. That guy should be in the Hall of Fame like 10 years ago, if not before. So I'm happy to see Randy Gradishar finally get in. Did you get a chance to watch the video? Because I really didn't get a chance to see it.
Just a little bit, just some highlights, like when he was wearing the jacket and all that. But
Yeah,
no.
I saw it whenever they uncovered, the
Mhm.
thing, the statue. But yeah, like I'm happy that Randy Gradishar finally got in there. Well deserved. He was one of the best Broncos in history, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
now, can we start fighting for Mike Shanahan to finally get in, please? Like I'm sick of them, just constantly overlooking Mike Shanahan. Like he needs to be in the Hall of Fame. In my opinion, he's one of the greatest coaches in NFL history.
I agree. I think he will. It's just it takes him forever for some reason. Whenever it comes to the Broncos, I don't know what it is, but I think he should be. Hopefully sooner than later.
I agree. Yeah, I just think the NFL has a bias towards the Broncos personally. I don't know what it is either, but that's my personal opinion. I think they got a bias. But I'm happy that he's finally in. Happy for him and his family. I got to see him and his family up there. I kind of watched a little bit of it too the other day myself, but I'm happy for him. Good for him. And like I said, now we need to fight next to get Mike Shanahan into the Hall of Fame. So moving on from that, the next thing we got is the Quinn Bailey injury, dislocated ankle. I think it was a broken fibula. He's out for the season. Um, I remember whenever it happened, like they were, it was like during practice, and the ambulance immediately came out onto the field. I think he's already been scheduled for surgery. I think he had it yesterday, actually. What were your thoughts on that?
I was kind of, it's always a terrible news, And then when I heard that the ambulance came and got him, I immediately know that he was probably out for the season. It happens, every training camp we get a injury. Hopefully we don't have any more, but yeah, it's definitely a blow to our O line. But I heard they signed Oliver Jarvis,
Yeah,
like a tackle. So, hopefully he pans out, and we'll see what happens with that. What do you
I
think?
believe he came over from the Chargers, didn't he?
Hmm.
Or was it one of our division rivals he came over from? I can't remember. I think it was the Chargers. Um,
Not
but
sure.
uh, but I know Sean Payton after it happened, he was talking about it, and he said pretty much he was their sixth lineman. Like he was literally the best. I wouldn't say the best, but he was number six in line. Like you get the five starters on offense, and then you got the backups. He was number six, so it was urgent that they went out and signed another tackle. I mean, they drafted Crum this year, but you can never have too much depth at the offensive line position because offensive linemen always seem to get hurt. Um, and honestly, this to me kind of goes into our next thing. Bo Nix clearly is the starter of this team. Like Sean Payton's not going to say it yet, but I've been to training camp in the last week 3 times, and Bo Nix is out there. He's got command of the offense. He's checking out. Like there was a couple of plays where he checked out of a run play or a certain play, checked into another one, and it was always a positive gain. Like he's got it between here. He's getting the timing down, and he's obviously the starter. What are your thoughts on this, Mohammed?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, we sort of knew that going into the training camp that at some point he's going to separate himself, and it actually happened. I don't think Sean Payton is going to come out and say he's the starter. I think he's going to wait maybe until the end of preseason or something. I don't know. But everybody knows that it's very clear that Bo Nix is going to be the starter week one, except some individuals that disagree with that. But like when I watch all the media, ESPN, Fox News, everybody saying Bo Nix is going to be the starter. So very obvious and exciting.
Yeah, it's clear as day. And I will tell you this from being there yesterday, or I believe Friday, like it was a breath of fresh air, in my opinion, finally to have a quarterback that can throw over the middle. Like it was like a huge sigh of relief. I was cheering. Like I was like, holy crap, that's what it looks like throwing over the middle.
Finally.
He had a really nice pass. I think it was on Thursday or Friday, where he hit Cortland Sutton about 25 yards downfield over the middle with Surtain smothering coverage. He delivered a rocket in there, and Sutton caught it. Like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. That's the kind of stuff we didn't see last year with Russ. You really don't see that too much with Jared Stidham either. Like Stidham's more of to me, he's more of a Teddy Bridgewater. Be safe with the ball, which I'm not saying Bo Nix ain't safe because he is. He's one of the safest quarterbacks with the ball, but he's more of a safe quarterback in the fact that he's going to throw drags. He's going to throw, into the flat a lot, screen routes, stuff like that. He's tried to push the ball down the field. He's had a couple of decent plays, Jared Stidham has, but not to the level of Bo Nix. I don't think he has the same arm strength, which was a knock on Bo Nix. Like, oh, he doesn't have the arm strength. Yes, he does. That kid can rocket the ball. He can throw it deep. He can fit it in the tight windows. There was one throw I saw, I think it was on Friday. He fit the ball into a mailbox-sized window like this big and tweezed it in. Like, Bo Nix has the arm. And I'm just happy to finally see it, And like I said, Zach Wilson, he's been out, in my opinion, since last weekend. He's been out. Zach Wilson, he tries to take those shots downfield, which is nice to see. He's got the arm talent. He just doesn't have it between here, and he's constantly overthrowing guys. So he's clearly number 3. He's been number 3 for a week. And the battle right now, as it continues, is between Jared Stidham and Bo Nix. But to me, Nix is clearly, over these at least last 3 days, if not 4 days, Nix has clearly separated himself from Jared Stidham. But with that said, who would you like to see as the backup, Zach Wilson or Jared Stidham, Mohamed?
I did like since this whole competition started, I had high hopes on Zach Wilson, being the backup, and I thought him coming to Denver and working with Sean Payton is going to help him, but it's not. It doesn't seem like it's working out. So it's probably going to be Stidham. Is it what I wanted? Not really, but that's what it seems like. I mean, Zach Wilson is just not getting it and stuff. I'll be surprised if they actually keep him.
Well, that's the thing too. Sean Payton was asked earlier in the week about keeping 3 quarterbacks, with Bo Nix clearly being the starter. Like, and I agree somewhat with that, Mohamed. Like, I don't think it's going to be the end of preseason. Honestly, if Bo Nix next Sunday goes into that Colts game, like he doesn't even have to be the starter. I think Stidham's probably going to start that game. But if Bo Nix goes out there and he just looks good, doesn't screw anything up, doesn't throw a pick or two, doesn't, make bad decisions. If he just goes out there and plays average/good, I think Peyton will name him the starter right after that preseason game. I really do. I think he'll name him the starter because at that point, it's like you got 2 more preseason games. Your training camp's almost over. You need to get Bo Nix as many reps with the ones as possible at that point. Like, the season's going to be here in a month, and you can't afford to waste starting snaps on Jared Stidham in this competition. If you know Bo Nix is the starter, you got to give him all those reps, to get him ready. But I'm sorry, Sean Payton was asked earlier in the week, hey, would you possibly carry 3 quarterbacks? And Sean Payton says it's a possibility. Now, to me, I don't know. Like, I think it depends on, other players and other positions. If they're like, we don't really want to get rid of this guy, but we're going to have to carry 4, say, pass rushers. Say they want to keep Jonah Ellis, Baron Browning, Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper, and maybe Incum, who's actually been having a solid camp. They might not carry 3 quarterbacks. But there was also a saying. I want to get your opinion on this, Mohammed. There was a saying that they would carry Jared Stidham and Bo Nix. Bo Nix is the one, Jared Stidham is the two, and they would put Zach Wilson on the practice squad if he clears waivers, hopefully. And they would use him as like a Patrick Mahomes type. Like get the Broncos defense ready for if they play the Chiefs that week. Use Zach Wilson as like a Patrick Mahomes type. A guy that can run, has got a big arm. Defenses chase him. Try to use him to their benefit. Prepare for Patrick Mahomes. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's very, very interesting. I did hear about that. I think that would be kind of interesting if they're actually able to keep him. Yeah, why not? I mean, he should be able to help the defense because Patrick Mahomes is going to be our issue anyway. Anytime we play the Chiefs. I just don't think he'll clear waivers, Eddie. Like if I don't know, do you see him actually clearing waivers if we actually do cut him? I mean, or I don't know.
I don't. I even with all the stuff he's shown in training camp and in his 3 years in the NFL, there's always a coach out there that's going to see the value he was, a second pick overall in the draft. They're going to see that and be like, if I could just get him in my system, I can make it work. Personally, I don't think it's going to. Like, they're going to take him. They'll probably, bring him onto the roster, and then they'll try him out. If he doesn't work, then they're just going to cut him. Because I'm sorry, but if Sean Payton can't fix Zach Wilson, I mean, there's only a handful of, head coaches that are offensive minded. I think that, is equal, if not better than Sean Payton with quarterbacks. And that's Andy Reid, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the only coaches I can think of that has a knack for, finding quarterbacks and developing them that they could be like, okay, we can do that. We'll try, and I don't think he clears waivers. Like if the Broncos want to keep him,
it's like a sad story. I mean, it's really sad. I feel bad for Zach Wilson. The way he was thrown into the Jets, and he's ruined. Very talented.
I think that's just what happened. It's not really Zach Wilson's fault. Like you said, he got thrown into the Lions den. The Jets screwed him up. That's just what happens in the NFL. I mean, maybe sometimes if the right offensive coach can get a hold of you, maybe they can fix you and resurrect your career. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but for Zach Wilson, I think he's just been so damaged by the Jets organization. I just think it's Sirianni, but I would trust Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Andy Reid, but I don't think none of those guys. Like, they got Brock Purdy in San Francisco. Maybe the Rams, Sean McVay with, Matthew Stafford getting older, and then, of course, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Kansas City. Like, he ain't going to go there. But Bo Nix, to me, clearly the starter. There's no more denying it to me. Like, the kid he's doing everything right. Yes, he has a couple little slip-ups here and there, but he's still we got to remember, he's still a rookie. He might have a few little mishaps, but they're not, like, terrible. It's just like little hiccups, you just got to work through. Which I think by the end of training camp and preseason, those hiccups are going to be gone. And he's going to be a full-fledged starter. He's going to be ready to go come week 1. I think Sean will have him ready to go. So, I'm right. Yeah. Bo Nix, QB1, there's no more hiding it at this point. And I think, like I said, I think Sean Payton names him after the first preseason game, as long as he doesn't, play terribly. Like, he doesn't like 3 interceptions and fumbles the ball away. And, as long as he doesn't do nothing like that, I believe Sean Payton will name him the starter, because at that point, like I said, you have to give him as many reps as possible, to get him ready for week 1. Because Seattle's a hard place to play, and they still have a good defense. Mm-hmm. So that's just my opinion. Moving on to the next thing, the running back room. Man, this one, oh my God, this is wild, bro. I'm not even going to lie to you. I like I said, I've been out there. You guys know that. Samaje, Javonte, McLaughlin, Estime, Blake Watson. Dude, they're out there balling. Like, they are. Estime is a freak, by the way. Like, even whenever I was there, dude, I've seen him truck over a freaking linebacker. I was like, holy crap, he's big. I mean, he's bigger than Javonte.
Yeah.
And with that said, like, Michael Burton, they're probably going to, have him on the active roster because they brought him back. I think like they signed him for another year. He's going to be the fullback to help out the, quarterback. But personally, it's possible they carry 4 running backs this year with the depth they have. What are your thoughts, Mohamed?
Yeah, I mean, see, Eddie, like I thought Estime really like beat out Javante Williams, but from what I'm hearing, Javante is playing pretty well.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, it's a really good problem to have. I don't know who they're gonna keep. Maybe P Ryan is really gonna get cut at some point, but everybody's playing really well. And I honestly, Eddie, believe that the Broncos are gonna rely on the run game. They're gonna be running heavy, especially the first few weeks. If Bonix is the starter, I think that they're gonna be relying on the run, and team are just not gonna want to play us. Seriously, like they'll keep running the ball, tiring out the defense. It's a good
Open up
recipe.
shots downfield. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So
Do you think they carry 4 running backs, or do you think they only carry 3?
I think 4, and then they could just cut Zach Wilson.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing because like I don't know if your 4 are the same as my 4. I think Javante, he's the clear cut number 1. He's not going nowhere. Audric Estime, not going nowhere. The kid's a beast, and during the cold parts of the year, like if you got 2 big physical running backs and you got that 1-2 punch with them, no one's going to want to tackle them. Nobody, and if you got that, then you can run the ball and easily win games with a rookie quarterback in the winter whenever it gets colder. I don't think Jalil's going anywhere either because, he's a fast little scat back dude. Like I was watching him the other day. He's like, whenever people say he's fast, you're like, yeah, okay. You see it on film, whatever. You're like, yeah, he's fast. But when you see it in person, I swear to God, I saw smoke come off his shoes. Like he is fast. And, there's a report that came out that he bought, I think he bought like a $4,000 machine or something to help him practice catching balls. He catches like 200 something balls a day, they say. So it would be nice to have that little scat back that's fast, that can catch and get upfield if like, Bo Nix throws out into the flat or a screen or something. Like I don't think he's going anywhere. But here's the thing. I don't think it's going to be P. Ryan is going to be the 4th running back. I think it's going to be Blake Watson, the rookie. Like they talked about him a lot. He's kind of another little, short little scat back, kind of like McLaughlin. But like if they cut P. Ryan, they could save a few $1 million. And he's young. Watson's younger. He's cheaper. They can have 3 running backs, 2 of which are rookies on their rookie deals, and McLaughlin's on his rookie deal. And then you got Williams, who, is pretty much in the final year of his contract. And depending on how he does this year, they can either pay him or let him go. And then Estime takes over as the bell cow back. But I think I think they do keep 4. Honestly, I think it's going to be, like I said, Williams, Estime, McLaughlin, and Blake Watson. Who is the 4 you think they're going to keep?
I agree. I think they keep Blake Watson and probably cut P Ryan since he's Blake Watson's younger and I mean, and somebody's gonna sign P Ryan. He's not as soon as we cut him, somebody's gonna sign him. Maybe we can trade him or something. But yeah, like Estime, Williams, McLaughlin, and Blake Watson.
Yeah.
Same time as you.
It's possible they could very well trade him. Like they could go through this first preseason game and then act like they're going to, keep Samaje and then be like, but if someone, wants to give us a trade offer, we're willing to trade him. And, maybe they trade him during the preseason at some point and maybe get like a 6th or a 5th round pick. Because even for P. Ryan, he's 27 years old. That's like a dinosaur for running backs, so. And he's a running back. They're a dime a dozen. So you ain't going to get like a high pick for him. Maybe a 5th at best. So if they can get a 5th, like any draft picks they can get this year, I would just take, stack pile that freaking, draft, board or that draft, picks. And that way you'll have all the money next offseason and you're going to have a bunch of draft picks. Even if they're late round picks, we know how George Payton is. Exactly. Works wonders at the end of the draft. Or you can use it as trade, trade stuff to move up in the draft next year if you need to. So, but moving on to the next thing, we got cornerback, the slot, cornerback slot 2. This one is another big competition for me. Like Levi Wallace, as you know, went down. I think it was Thursday with a hammy. They say he's only gonna be out for a couple of weeks, so he'll be out, this week and probably after the preseason game, the week after that. But he'll probably be ready to go by week 2 or preseason game 2. But with that said, ever since he went down, they've been rotating snaps for the cornerback 2 position between Riley Moss and Damari Mathis. Neither one's really, like wow. But from what I'm hearing, Riley Moss has been doing a little bit better than Damari Mathis. What is your take?
Yeah, I would definitely go with Moss. Mathis, from last year, I just wanted them to cut him seriously. Like, I don't see I don't see any future with him. Hopefully Moss can step up, and then maybe Levi Wallace will come back. Because he was playing pretty well. So we shall see.
And well, the other one I wanted to throw in there too that I haven't really heard him taking cornerback 2 snaps is Abrams Drain, the young rookie that we drafted out of Missouri this year. Like, I know he's fast and he seems to be having a solid camp. Like, I haven't really heard much on him. Like, you don't hear about him getting a DPI called on him or him getting beat off, whatever. So they might start rotating him in this coming up week during camp, where they rotate him in. What's up, Big E? We're doing great. How about yourself, buddy? Thank you for joining us tonight. But I think they should get him some, cornerback 2 snaps this week. Abrams Strain. Just let him get in there, see what he can do. Yeah. He's young. I'm not saying that Riley Moss ain't young, but I just let him take some snaps. Give him to Riley Moss, give him to Abrams Strain, see what happens. Because I think Damari Mathis is a big cut candidate this year. Like, he's not making the roster, in my opinion.
I want nothing to do with him, seriously.
And then Levi Wallace, if one of these young guys like Riley Moss or Abrams Drain can step up and be that second corner opposite of Patrick Surtain, you could use Levi Wallace as a backup the rest of the year. And then by the end of the year, you could let him go. And then you got your slot, your cornerback number 2. So I really hope they give Abrams Drain a chance this coming up week because I would really like to see what he can do out there working with the ones. But if you had to choose between those two, Abrams Drain and Moss, who would you rather see on the field?
Probably Moss.
Moss?
Yeah.
Any particular reason why?
Just like the more experience, I guess. And I haven't seen much of the rookie, so maybe he can play. Maybe you could see him on the preseason. See what the kid got. So
yeah, Biggie. I think Denver needs to look for a trade for a number. Oh, okay. He thinks that we should look for a cornerback via trade and then move Moss back to safety. Maybe. Maybe he can pull a Kareem Jackson and go back to safety. Maybe he'll play better back there.
That's not a bad idea.
They have a lot of safeties. I think Caden Stearns came back last week. Brandon Jones should be back in a couple of weeks. Then you got PJ Locke, Skinner. You got a few safeties out there that, Dante Turner, Yell. You got a few safeties back there. I don't know, maybe they move them back, but I think they're going to look and see what they got in the safeties they have now. Because, they're going to have to make, there's a lot of roster, or players that they're going to have to cut to shave this roster down to 53. A lot of players that are probably going to go to another team and possibly be a contributor on that team. So, that's a good problem to have, but we need to find the right guys for our roster. But I don't know. I'd like to see it. If Moss plays better at safety, then do it. I'm not going to argue with that by any stretch of the imagination. So, but Jaquan McMillan, he's pretty much going to be the nickel. He's been out there balling too at the nickel position. He's been, having pass breakups. He's constantly he's all over the guy in the slot. Nothing's getting by him. I wanted to get your thoughts on McMillan too, Mohamed.
I like McMillan from what I've seen from him last year. But going back to Big E's point, if there's a corner that's available in free agency, I wouldn't disagree with that idea. That's not necessarily, that'd be a good thing. Why not bring him in, see if he could compete for that position? Because after this injury, I'm kind of feeling like the cornerback position is, a little bit thinner than what it was.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Maybe, but like I said, I think Levi Wallace will be back in a couple of weeks. He'll be back by maybe the second or third preseason game, as long as that injury to the hammy doesn't linger. I mean, that's the big problem with hammies is they freaking linger forever. Like that's what I'm worried about personally. But with that said, moving on to the next topic at hand is defense. The defense dominating in camp. Now this one is big to me, dude. Like, and they are like the defense is constantly in the backfield. Now, a lot of people are going to freak out and be like, well, how bad is the offensive line if that's the case? Well, I'd say towards the end of this week, the offensive line started doing a little bit better. Like they're starting to get into that rhythm. But we also got to remember they're alternating out the center position too. Like, they're constantly, switching that up. So the center position to me, the quarterback of the offensive line, that's a big part of it. Because a lot of the pressure that they've been getting through the defense is up in the front, like Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones. I mean, you got pass rushers coming off the side too. They get back in the backfield sometimes. But what are your thoughts about the defense?
Eddie, like I'm not surprised because all the upgrades they made, bring in Myers, Jonah Alice, I always thought that the line is going to be much improved than last year. So I'm not surprised to hear all these things about how the defense, the pass rush, all this getting to the backfield, getting to the quarterback. It's actually good, exciting because we had an issue last year. So hopefully we can stop the run. So, but I mean, training camp usually, like in the beginning, the defense usually winning those, things. But yeah, it's exciting, man. Let's go.
Well, that's the other. Let's see. Big Broncos. Levi Wallace is like a third string cornerback in the NFL, and he's our number two. We're in trouble. I don't know, Biggie. The reports I've been hearing from what I've seen, he was actually doing pretty solid out there before he went down. I think he was covering Reynolds because Sertan was on Sutton, of course. Best corner versus the best receiver. But he was doing pretty good out there. That like the last couple of days since Levi Wallace has been out, dude. Josh Reynolds has been having a field day out there with the cornerback two position. Like there was one play I saw. I think it was either yesterday or Friday. Josh Reynolds was just screaming across the middle, wide open, nobody within like 10 yards of him, and Bo Nix hit him like in the middle of the field, like, and that was after Levi Wallace went down. Now maybe if Levi Wallace was out there, he, like, from my understanding, he would have probably been covered a little bit better because he was playing really good against Josh Reynolds earlier in practice. So I wouldn't say he's a third string quarterback. I think he could be a solid number two, maybe a low end two. But until like one of these young guys, whether it's Drain, I shouldn't even say Damari Mathis, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Damari Mathis or Riley Moss, step up and really start becoming that cornerback too. I think Levi Wallace will probably start the season as long as he's healthy. If not, we got a big battle at that cornerback two position the rest of the season, but or the rest of the offseason. But anyway, I wanted to get back to the defense. That was the other thing I wanted to touch on was it wasn't just them getting into the backfield to get to the quarterback, Mohamed, the defensive line. They were stopping the run. Like they would get back there. Like, of course, they're not allowed to tackle each other even with pads on. They're not allowed to actually take each other to the ground. I mean, they might fall over each other. That's cool. But a lot of the times from what I've seen, the defensive line would get back there and they got to the running back. Like they were able to stop him in the backfield. And that was the biggest reason why 3 years ago they brought in DJ Jones. Last year they brought in Zach Allen. This year they brought in John Franklin Myers is to help stop that run because we were one of the worst teams the last couple of years at stopping the run. And from the reports I've seen, from what I've seen personally with my own eyes being out there, they were able to stop the run. They were getting back there to, Javante. They were able to get back there to Estimate, McLaughlin. Who's the other one? P. Ryan. Like they were getting back there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Eddie, like I said, man, we are going to be much improved as far as being against the run, you know, and that's why going back to that corner position, it's really important to get that corner two position right, because we know teams are not going to be throwing where Sertan is, so they're going to be throwing the other side. So
Yeah.
it has to be solid. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble because teams going to be giving up. They'll be like, well, we can't run on them. Let's throw the ball. So, hopefully that, the linebacker position and the corner two position are good. Hopefully we're good in that. So,
No, yeah, I agree. And like I said, Jonah Ellis has been doing good out there. Baron Browning's been getting into the backfield. Nick Benito, he missed the last couple of days. I don't know if he was actually hurt or if it was just rest days for him. Jonathan Cooper getting back there. And honestly, the safeties have been looking good. Like Skinner, he's been looking good out there. Caden Stearns came back, I think, Friday. Haven't really seen a whole lot of him yet. PJ Locke, he's all over the freaking field, which is nice to see because I think he's going to be one of our stars. I think he will be our strong safety. He's going to be the guy they put in the box a lot to help come down to help stop the run if they need him to. And then I think once Brandon Jones gets back, he's going to be the free safety. He's going to be the guy back there, scouring the middle of the field, protecting everything. So, but yeah, like the whole defense, like getting into our next point here, defensive risers and training camp. Um, the biggest one to me, the one that's been the most, like impressive to me personally, I would have to say was John Franklin Myers. The guy is a beast up front. Man, I'm so happy. But the Jets, they got rid of him because they already got so much talent on their defensive line that I don't think they were going to keep him. They were going to cut him. So they're like, we're going to get a pick for him, even if it's a late round pick, but he's a stud, dude. Like he is always blowing up plays. Now he's more over that center position, and that could be the problem right there. Is because, like I said, they're rotating centers out right now. So maybe that's why he's getting through. But either way, man, John Franklin Myers, dude, he's a big one to watch for me. And Malcolm Roach. That's another one we didn't talk about. He's another one that's been getting in the backfield. Malcolm Roach, boy, is constantly in the backfield. Who are some of the defensive risers in your opinion?
Yeah, I did hear about Myers being a stud up out there. I'm not surprised, honestly, Eddie. Like when they brought him in, I thought that was a steal. Like it was a really good thing for the Broncos to get him. I can actually see the Broncos. We are going to be having a lot of. There's going to be a lot of sacks. Running backs. They're going to be stopped. I don't see them going anywhere. Seriously, I can't wait for the season to start, Eddie. And then it's like with the D line, like who are they going to keep and who are they going to let go? Like same thing with the pass rushers. Like so much talent. Like I said, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. And another big one to me, another big riser on the defense. There's actually a couple more, but Jonas Griffith, like he's been out there flying all over the field. I think he's going to have a good season. Like Barton, the inside linebacker that we signed this year, and then you got Alex Singleton, of course. But I would not be surprised if by some point in the season, Griffith, he's like number two. Like Barton goes down to number three, and Griffith goes to number two behind Alex Singleton. Like that boy is all over the field making tackles. And he's also great in the run game, dude. There's a few times I've seen him in the backfield getting a running back down on the ground. And it's just wild to me. And the next one, like Jonah Ellis, I kind of touched on him. I think he still needs a little bit more work. I mean, he's good, but for him to take that next step, for me to say he's a riser, he needs to work a little bit more and get a little bit more time under his belt. And I think he'd be good. But the next one, this one is like you talked about people not really wanting to throw Surtain's way, because he's arguably the best corner in the league, so they're probably going to go after that number two corner.
Yeah.
McMillan in the slot. I said earlier, and I will say again, that boy is locking up everything. No quarterback is going to want to throw to Surtain. They're not going to want to throw towards McMillan. So it is imperative that the Broncos find that cornerback too, because they're not going to want to throw over the middle of the field in the slot to the slot receiver if McMillan's on him. They're not going to want to throw a PS2. McMillan, to me, dude, this kid's going to have a monster year, in my opinion. Whenever he's in there in the nickel, he's going to have a monster year. What are your thoughts?
Yes, Eddie. I want to make a prediction. I think we're going to have a top 5 defense. I mean, it got crazy last year, with the Miami game and stuff, but then it got really better. And this year, with all the pieces we added, yes.
Anytime, in my opinion, anytime a young player on defense, young, like if he's a rookie or he's in year 2 or year 3, basically if he's on his rookie contract, if he picks off Patrick Mahomes, he is a god in my eyes. And that's not saying like, oh, it was one play. It's because Patrick Mahomes is one of the most hardest quarterbacks to, intercept. Because Mahomes is like, I hate bragging about this. It's not really bragging, but I hate saying this. Mahomes is hard to pick off because he knows constantly where to go with the ball. He's making these crazy acrobatic plays. Balls are going in places where the defender has no chance to get it.
Yeah.
So when a young defender picks off Patrick Mahomes, whether it's a Bronco or some other young defender on a different team, I praise that player because picking off Patrick Mahomes is no easy feat. I mean, Justin Simmons, I think Justin Simmons was kind of like his kryptonite. I mean, he picked him off, 6-7 times? And I think he had like a pick for every year he's been with the Broncos against Mahomes. I think he's been in the league, 7 years? He had like 7 interceptions against Mahomes. But when a young guy picks him off, that makes me excited because that means he knows where he's going. He's reading Patrick Mahomes' eyes. He knows where Patrick Mahomes is going to go, and he gets there. And that, to me, makes me freaking happy. So McMillan, Franklin Myers, and Jonas Griffith are my big ones, and maybe even Malcolm Roach. He's been doing good in training camp too. I cannot wait to see what these guys do in the preseason games. They're going to be smothering teams. If this defense is as good as I think it's going to be, based off what I've seen and what I've heard, it's going to be a smothering defense. And not just that, I want to touch on this before we move on to the next topic. Based on what I've seen in training camp, at first, whenever I first saw it, the first day I was there, the first day of training camp, I thought Sean Payton wanted the defense to, just blitz a lot, just kind of put, Bo Nix and these quarterbacks and the offense in that position. But pretty much over the last week and a half since training camp has started, I don't think it's Sean Payton saying this. I think it is VJ, and he's going to be aggressive this year. A lot of the plays I've seen, every other play is a blitz.
Yes.
Now, that could be a detriment. I don't think he's going to do it as much in the regular season. I think he's just doing it now to help the quarterbacks maybe develop and, get his team in shape and ready because it's been a physical training camp. But based on what I'm hearing, they're going to be physical this year, not just with blitzes, but just all around tackling, getting after the quarterback, getting after the running back. They're going to be physical and aggressive. What are your thoughts on that?
I cannot wait, Eddie. That is so exciting to me. I like blitzing. I like sacks. I like being physical. Let's do it, man. Let's get these teams. Show them what we got.
Like I said, I'm fine with it too, but don't do it so much that becomes a detriment, to where, you're doing it so much that teams are just going to pick your defense apart because you're sending 7-8 guys the blitz and you're only leaving a few in coverage and you got wide receivers open all over the field. It's okay to do it. If you want to do it 3 times in a drive, depending on how long the drive is, that's fine, but just don't do it consistently all the time. Every other play, just blitz, then not blitz, then blitz, then not blitz, then blitz. Don't do that because then it's going to kind of become repetitive and teams are going to know what you're doing. So hopefully it doesn't become a detriment, but I love the aggressiveness. I also heard a report the other day that this is one of the most physical training camps that Sean Payton has had in years. Not only that they're physical, they're just blitzing a lot. They're doing all these, other things, being more aggressive on the offense and defensive side of the ball. But the practices usually last from 10 a.m. to noon. They've been going for an additional 30 minutes every day. They can go from 10 to 12:30. He's making these practices longer and more difficult and more aggressive and a lot harder. And the reason for that, they say, is to prevent injuries. They want them to toughen up to prevent injuries. But at some point, it's you got to slow down a little bit because if you go too hard, you're still going to create injuries. People are going to get worn out. Their bodies are going to get sore. It's going to cause a problem. But, I think this week they're probably going to go a little slower, honestly, because last week they were going bam, bam. I mean, they were going 110% every day, all day. So I'm hoping this week they kind of slow that down a little bit. So that way it doesn't, really wear out the players. So, but moving on to the next topic, Luke Wattenberg likely the starter at center. Dude, like Luke Wattenberg, oh my God, dude. I seen him out there the other day. He was just plowing dudes over. Like I said, a couple of times the defensive line got through. Yeah. But Luke Wattenberg looks like the starting center to me. I mean, the only other person they got is Sam Mustipher because they moved Alex Forsyth over to play at guard, which was weird to me. But I'm not Sean Payton. I don't know what his thought process is. But I think Luke Wattenberg is going to be your week 1 starter at center. What are your thoughts?
I don't know, Eddie. Like, to me, I was actually surprised, because I thought Forsyth has the advantage, being familiar with Bo Nix, and now they have him taking snaps at guard, Forsyth, that is.
Yes, from my understanding, they haven't taken snaps with the second stringers at guard. Because you got Ben Powers and you got, of course, the belly. The guy we just paid, which he ain't going nowhere.
My God.
But yeah, they've had Alex Ford. I mean, I think he's rotated at center a few times, but I think he's had more snaps at guard than he has at center. Luke Wattenberg and who the other one? Sam Mustipher, the guy we brought in this offseason. They've been taking the majority of the snaps at center. And it looks like Luke Wattenberg has been, running with the ones more than Mustipher has. What are your thoughts on that? Like, I mean, are you excited about that? Are you concerned?
I'm not concerned. I was surprised, but I mean, like you said, if Sean Payton think he's the perfect man for the job, I believe him. Who am I to say no? But hey, he's doing well in that position. Might as well leave him there.
Well, to me, center is the biggest position on the offensive line outside of maybe left tackle. Like, depending on your quarterback too, that all depends on your quarterback. Like, if your quarterback's a right-hander, like the majority of quarterbacks in this league are, if not all, besides maybe, I think the only left-hander that's in the league that's not going to be starting is Michael Penix.
Penix, yeah.
But that's the blind side for a right-handed quarterback is the left tackle. So you got to make sure you got that steady left tackle there to protect your, quarterback's blind side. But then, like I said earlier, the center is like the quarterback of the offensive line. Him and the quarterback, they have to have that chemistry. He's the one calling, Bo Nix, yeah, but he's the one making sure all the offensive linemen are in their positions, that whenever Bo Nix calls out checks, he's the one, pretty much like, hey, get here, get there, make sure you go here, go there. And if Luke Wattenberg's showing that ability to do all that and run the offensive line, then yeah, I'm there. Like, let him start if he's the best man for the job. I mean, Sam Mustipher, we know I think he started with the Bears, and then I think he went to the Ravens or somebody. I can't remember. So he's been on a few teams, but I think Luke Wattenberg, being the young guy, finally getting a chance. But like I said, he's been out there. Whenever he was out there, man, he was doing pretty good at center. He was solid. Like Mustipher, whenever I say those guys would come through, most of the time it seemed like it was him letting them through.
Oh, okay.
So take with that with what you will. I think Luke Wattenberg is going to be the starting center this year. So that's just my opinion. Next, Malcolm Roach, a big key piece that we signed for defense this year. And he looks great out there. Like, we talked about it, like familiarity with Sean Payton, being in New Orleans. And he's another one. John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, Zach Allen, and Malcolm Roach, they're all good at stopping the run. I think this is an excellent addition, not just to help stop the run, but it adds depth to the defensive line, something that we have not had in years. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I'm blown away. It's really good. I mean, like I said, man, that was an issue last year, on the year before, and the year before that. People just like running all over the field. So finally, and we gotten big too in the middle. So teams would be like, I dare you, go ahead and run. Good luck with it. So yeah.
And going off what you said earlier, if they can figure out that cornerback 2 position, like our secondary, like our secondary was probably the biggest strength of our team over the last couple of seasons. Like the secondary for the Broncos was like the top reason why the defense was so good because teams couldn't pass on us. They could run on us all day, but they could not pass on us. If they can figure out that cornerback 2 position, get that solidified, and teams can't pass on us, and they try to run and they can't run on us, this defense is going to be really, really good this year. They're not going to be allowing a lot of yards, a lot of points, and that's going to be good. And maybe probably be getting a lot of turnovers too and giving short fields, kind of like last year with Russell Wilson, giving Bo Nix a lot of short fields to work with. You know,
defense. I said it first.
I'm not going to argue with you. I think it could be too. It just, like I said, as long as Vance Joseph doesn't go overboard with the aggressiveness and the blitzing, I'm right there with you. But I think that's what's going to happen. Week 1 with Seattle, I honestly think that's what they're going to do. I think that's their game plan because they really don't trust Geno Smith. He's not really the type of guy to push the ball down the field. It's a defensive coach, and we know with defensive coaches, they like to play defense and run the ball. And all the teams always, whenever you get to week 1 of the next, the new year, most teams are like, hey, okay, we're going to look at the tape from last year from the team that we're playing this week. And okay, the Broncos had a hard time stopping the run. Yeah, they had a few key additions, but we're going to go ahead and run the ball and make sure and see if they actually got better. And whenever that defensive line stops the run, they're not going to be able to throw on us.
Yeah.
Surtain's going to be locking down people, McMillan, PJ Locke, all them guys. They're going to be locking down guys. And I think Seattle's going to have a hard time moving the ball that week. And Malcolm Roach is a big part of that. And he's that rotational piece. I believe if I remember, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think DJ Jones is going to be the defensive tackle, if I remember right. And I think Malcolm Roach is going to be, Malcolm Roach is also a defensive tackle. And then I think your ends are going to be Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. So that nose tackle position, you got Malcolm Roach and DJ Jones there. The nose tackles are the biggest pieces to me in stopping the run. They're the ones that are going to get up there, get to the center, maybe push him back, and then the ends come in and they get to the guards or the tackles, whatever. But yeah, Malcolm Roach, excellent addition, good rotational piece, and heck, dare I say he could be a starter?
I'm not going to be surprised.
Maybe John Franklin Meyer, maybe DJ Jones. I'm sorry, DJ Jones is the rotational backup piece, and Malcolm Roach becomes the starter. Because I haven't really heard DJ Jones's name much. Haven't heard much about him. Malcolm Roach, I have, so maybe he's competing for that defensive tackle starting position. I'm not going to argue with that. So I'm kind of excited. I can't wait. I'm excited. I want week 1 to get here and watch Seattle try to run that ball, and they ain't going to be able to do jack.
Eddie,
I can't.
Yeah, teams going to have a hard time scoring on us. Seriously. It's going to be low scoring every time. I don't see them scoring 3 or 4 touchdowns on the Broncos. It's going to be really hard from everything we see. So
it'll be like 7 to 31 every week.
I mean, remember last year after that Miami game, that's what it was, very low scoring except for a few games. And now we've gotten better. So
that all depends on Vance Joseph too, because we talked about this earlier in the offseason with the defense, is that whenever the season first started, Vance Joseph was doing a lot of that shell coverage, that cover 2, that cover 4, having 2 deep safeties. And we were just getting burnt because the teams would either constantly run the ball on us, which in cover 4 and cover 2, team runs the ball on you. You got them 2 deep safeties. You pretty much use just your defensive line to stop the run. You got to be able to bring that safety down every now and then. And then cover 4 was the same way. You got, your safeties deep, all this and that. And then after that Miami game, he started going to more of a single high coverage, cover 3, cover 1 with the single high safety. And that's when the defense really started to take off. And I'm kind of hoping he sticks to that this year. I mean, I'm not saying don't ever play cover 4 or cover 2. Sometimes it's good to play that because that helps prevent the deep pass. But I think to start the season, I think they should do a lot of that cover one at first and see how it looks, because that's what really got that Broncos on that 5-game win streak and the defense to turn around last year was they started playing a lot of that cover three, cover one, having that single high safety. What are your thoughts on that, Mohamed?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to make sure the team you keep them guessing. You can't be doing the same thing. I mean, like I said, I love blitzing. If it was up to me, they'll be blitzing every play. You can't do that, right? Because you get exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to keep them guessing. You can't let them figure out what you're doing because they'll get you. Because I mean, hey, always watching what you're doing. So.
Yep. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Who will make it in the wide receiver room? I wanted to get your thoughts on this first, Mohamed, before I tell you mine. So, how many receivers do you think the Broncos keep, and who do you think makes the roster?
I'm thinking 6. I got Sutton, Mims, Tim Patrick, Josh Reynolds, and Lil Humphreys. Troy Franklin, Eddie. Like I was hesitant to add him because I was kind of hearing mixed reports about him, like not doing too well, dropping balls, doing some crazy stuff. But I think this past week, he started playing better. So, and I think they picked him to have him play with Bo Nix because of the familiarity. So, yeah, those are the 6 I got. Who you got?
I'm a little bit different. Majority of them are right. There's only one that we got different. Cortland Sutton, of course, he's making the roster. There's no way he's going anywhere. Marvin Mims, same thing, not going nowhere. Josh Reynolds, of course, you brought him in. Tim Patrick, that's 4. I got them. I do agree Troy Franklin makes the roster because of the connection with Bo Nix, and I do believe he is getting better, just like you said this last couple of weeks. But I got Lil Jordan Humphrey not making the roster. That 6 receiver spot is going to go to the Vale, that rookie that we drafted this year.
Okay.
He's actually been doing really, really good out there. And he's got like a rapport. He's got a chemistry with, I think Bo Nix or Jared Stidham, one of the two. But he's been out there looking really good. Lil Jordan Humphrey, I'm not saying he doesn't look good, but I just feel like, they're going to keep Vele. He's taller. He's faster than Lil Jordan Humphrey. They're about the same age, but he's faster. He's taller. That's who I got making the roster at the receiver position is those 6. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Marvin Mims, Josh Reynolds, Troy Franklin, and Vele. I just don't see. And honestly, I've seen some people say Michael Bandy might make the roster. He was on the practice squad last year. Like, I don't know if you've seen the reports, Mohamed, but that boy has been catching everything. Anytime a ball is in his vicinity, he catches it. Like, he's a security blanket. And could he possibly make the roster? Maybe.
It's crazy. Like, keep and who they're going to let go. And whoever they let go is probably going to go to a team and might start.
Well, like you said, good problem to have. A lot of these players that we're going to wind up cutting could be starters, in my opinion, on other teams. Maybe not like a number 1 or a number 2, but a number 3. Like the 3rd and 4th receivers on your depth chart are usually a big part of the game plan still. So I don't know, man. Like Michael Bandy, like I have a feeling if we try to put him back on the practice squad this year, he's going to get picked up off waivers.
Yeah.
Like he's been catching everything. Like early in camp, he was like Bo Nix's security blanket. He was catching everything from Nix. Everything. Nix would find him, 83, boom, hit him. Michael Bandy's like, thank you. Like, it was insane, dude. So, I'm that to me, that's an alert right there. Watch out for Michael Bandy. I know a lot of people think that's crazy, but watch him. He's my surprise out of all the players. He's my surprise to make the roster. Like I would not be surprised in the least if he made the roster. So, do you have any surprises at any positions to make the roster?
Who I got? I'm kind of, Eddie, like I'm like maybe like with the running backs, kind of struggling with like P. Ryan staying or leaving, that's one thing. And now with Humphreys not making it, I'd really say those two. Who you got?
Like I said, Michael Bandy. And the only other one I can really think of, I think he's been having a solid camp. Like, not great, but he's been pretty solid, is that rookie tackle we drafted, Frank Crum.
Oh, okay.
I could, especially now that Quinn Bailey's out. Yes, I understood they signed another tackle, but Crum has been looking solid out there. He's not like going to blow you away, but I think in a pickle, like if one of your tackles went down, he'd be a solid person to put in there to back up, to play for as a backup. So those are the two I got. I could possibly be surprised, roster makings. So that's just my opinion. Okay. Moving on to the last topic of the night. Greg Dulcich having a breakout season. This is going to happen. Like, I'm 110% not even playing with this. Greg Dulcich is going to, if Bo Nix is the starter, which I believe he will be, Greg Dulcich is going to have a massive season this year. A couple of reasons why I say that. One, he's been out there at training camp every day. He's looked explosive. He's doing his cuts. Like, that leg is not, the ankle, the hammy, nothing is bothering him. He's fast. He's explosive. He's constantly, catching things. And he's got a rapport with Bo Nix. Like, a lot of the passes you've been seeing from highlights of Bo Nix, Sutton, Dulcich, and I think Michael Bandy. Those were the main three that Bo Nix has been throwing to. And Dulcich is just the chemistry between those two gets me excited. And the last thing I want to touch on before I pass this over to you is that we know how much Sean Payton loves to use tight ends over the middle of the field. You finally got a quarterback that can throw over the middle of the field, see over the offensive line, is not going to shy away from throwing over the middle of the field. And now you got a tight end that's looking explosive, is looking good, and we know Sean Payton loves to utilize, going to be going over the middle a lot. So I believe Greg Dulcich is going to have a monster year. What are your thoughts?
Eddie, like I'm honestly not surprised because I always knew he was good. It's just he kept getting injured, season after season. So I'm happy and excited to finally hear that he's doing really well and he's got that building that chemistry with Bo Nix. And then you hear, Sean Payton talking about Kroll also. So you got two tight ends that can actually play and, help Bo Nix. Come on. This is shaping up to be a really good offense, I would say. Yep. I'm trying to stop myself for being too Eddie, but come on. This Broncos team is for sure, it's legit.
Well, I will say Lucas Kroll does have a little, kind of like Greg Dulcich. He has a little I don't think they're going to use Greg Dulcich too much as a blocking tight end. He's more of a vertical threat kind of a tight end. But I think it was Friday. I remember hearing Mike McGlinchey scream at Lucas Kroll because I think they were on the 5-yard line, and Kroll was supposed to stay in and block, and he didn't do his assignment. He went out on a route, and the free blitzer came in and would have just annihilated Bo Nix. Just annihilated him.
I have that.
And you could hear Mike McGlinchey screaming at Kroll like, "You're supposed to stay in and block." So I think Kroll, I think he has a bright future, but he got to really work on his blocking. He's got to understand, hey, when you're supposed to stay in and block, stay in and block. Don't go out on a route. That was a big, big no-no to me. And it was just really fun being out there and just hearing the pads pop, hearing Sean Payton talk, all that stuff, watching Bo Nix, seeing what he can do. And honestly, man, this is going to be a really fun season. I still believe this is an evaluation year for the Broncos. They're going to be evaluating a lot of this young talent on the roster to see what they have. But the more I hear, the more I see and I read, and the more I go out there and watch, I'm going again Wednesday. This offense and this defense is really shaping up, I think, to be a great team. This whole team all around is shaping up to be a great team. And I would not be surprised. And I'm not trying to jump to conclusions here because my record, when we did our record predictions, I got the Broncos at 10-7 and sneaking into a wild card spot because the way I had the schedule play out in the games. I mean, they can still go 10-7 and miss the playoffs. That's possible. But maybe my bias, maybe my, Bronco fanhood or whatever, or my excitement's getting a little bit better of me, but I would not hesitate to say this Bronco team can win 11 or 12 games with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that's crazy, honestly. Like I said, I'm trying to stop myself from being too excited because I don't want to be disappointed. I don't think I'm going to be, but yeah, I mean, seriously, like every position that you look at, except maybe for like the linebacker and the corner 2 position, maybe I'm a little hesitant, but everything else, like, it's a solid team. Finally, you could see the light.
And it's also a young team. Like
Yeah.
we talked about before the pod, the oldest, there's two players are the same age. One's a few months younger than the other, but the 2 oldest players on the team are only 32. And that's Garrett Bowles and Michael Burton, our fullback, who's only on a 1-year deal. And honestly, I believe they're probably going to re-sign Garrett Bowles at the end of this year and, have him for another couple of years. Because Sean was asked about that the other day. And I think that it's possible that Garrett Bowles comes back next year on a couple of, like maybe a 2-year deal. He'll probably he wants to be here. His family was raised here. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. I think he'll take a hometown discount and stay in Denver, for another couple of years to protect Bo Nix's blind side. But the last thing I wanted to touch on with you, Mohamed, because I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Because a lot of people in Broncos country were, kind of like either A, freaking out, or B, really freaking excited about what Sean Payton said. I think it was either yesterday or Friday. When talking about Bo Nix and the quarterback position, and some people actually thought this was Sean Payton, not just, pretty much hyping up Bo Nix, but also taking a shot at Russ the other day, was that he was like, quote, I always say the sacks are more on the quarterback. It's more of a quarterback statistic than the offensive line statistic. And when asked about Bo Nix, and he was like, well, Bo Nix doesn't take a lot of sacks. He's kind of like Drew Brees in the sense that he doesn't take a lot of sacks. He gets the ball out quick. He, like all offseason, Sean Payton, people would ask him that question, like, oh, do you think Bo Nix's comp is Drew Brees and blah, blah, blah. Sean Payton always did his best to avoid that and not say anything. Like he would be like, yeah, he'd go to the next question or he'd say something different. This is the first time Sean Payton has actually compared Drew Brees to Bo Nix to Drew Brees. What are your thoughts on that before we get out of here tonight?
I mean, we kind of all knew that he's a pretty similar player, but I do think Sean Payton probably taking a shot at Russ. I'm not surprised. I mean, he's probably saying it without saying it, but for him to come out and actually say that tells you. I mean, honestly, with Sean Payton, you could tell that he's trying to contain himself from being too excited or actually saying what he think of Bo Nix. But we all know we got our guy.
Yeah, he's 100% the guy. He's 100% going to be the week 1 starter. Sean Payton, like, I agree with you, Mohamed. You could see Sean Payton. You can see in his face he's a lot more relaxed this offseason. He's, composed. He's happy. He doesn't look like his freaking blood pressure shooting through the freaking roof.
Mm-hmm.
He's not really like, I mean, you could say that was a shot at Russ, which I'm not going to argue if it was or wasn't. I really don't care. But like last year, he was taking shots at everybody. He took shots at Nathaniel Hackett. He was pretty much calling out Russ, even though he was on the team. Like, you could just tell. He was just like, yeah, I inherited a crap show. Mm-hmm. And the regime here before was just garbage. Russell Wilson, stop kissing baby. Stop doing all this. This year, he's a lot more relaxed. He's a lot more composed. He's happy. He's out. Like, even whenever I seen him out there on the field the other day, he was kind of goofing off. I mean, he wasn't like dancing or nothing, but he was just kind of talking to the players, goofing off, having a good time.
Relaxed. Yeah.
I didn't see that last year. So, yeah, he's got his guy. Bo Nix is the starter, and I think Sean Payton couldn't be happier. So, anyway, that's it for us tonight, guys. This has been another episode of Colorado Sports Connection. I think we got through a lot tonight, Mohamed. Any final thoughts for you before we get out of here?
The future is bright for the Broncos. That's all I'm going to say.
You're dang right it is. So, all right, guys, please like, comment, subscribe on this video, and please join us next week again at the same time, 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Colorado Sports Connection. And until then, we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.